Okay, let's begin our today's class. Okay, so we are in tutorial 4, okay, for today's contents. And then so we are going to continue with the discussion of tutorial 4, and then after that we are going to talk about the tutorial 2. Yep. So let's begin. Okay, so as I mentioned, tutorial 4 is the continuous version of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply that we learned in the previous week. And we had learned about the question 1 in the previous class. So question 1 is about policies. So here I mentioned about fiscal policy and monetary policy. And we talk about expansionary. Okay, why? Because this is to increase the aggregate demand. Yeah, so I've thought about this in the previous class, and no worries, because in the upcoming chapters, right, when we learn about the policies, then you will come across fiscal policy as one chapter and monetary policy as 2 chapters as well. Yeah, so this is something that will come across. So question 1 and question 2 over here is a bit like a preview of what you're going to learn in the upcoming classes. Okay, now let's have a look into question number 2. So again, question number 2, you haven't learned about the inflation yet, but this is, you can take it as a preview of what you are going to learn in the upcoming classes. So what are the key determinants of inflation, and how might changes in the aggregate demand and aggregate supply impact the inflation rates over time? Okay, so again, let's do some mind map, okay, to show you the preview of what is inflation. Okay, so first of all, right, we talk about inflation. Okay, so inflation. So we talk about inflation, the meanings means that that is a sustain in the price level. Okay, a sustain in the price level in the country over a period of time. Okay, so a quick definition here is that when we talk about inflation, that means there's a sustain, a general increase, okay, in the price level of goods and services, okay, in the country over a period of time. Okay, so keywords here, when we talk about inflation, when you define inflation next time, you must say that the increase in the price level is sustained. That means it's not only happening for one time, it's not only happening for one quarter, it's not only happening for like 1 year, but it happens consecutively. Okay, so one after another. So from 1 year to the other, the price level is increasing, and then followed by the subsequent years, the price level is decreasing. So the keywords of defining inflation is the sustained rise. Sorry, I forgot one word here. A sustained rise in the price level. Yeah, I forgot the word rise. Okay, so a sustained rise in the price level. Okay, again, I use the word price level because this is macro. I'm looking into the prices of the average prices of the basket of goods and services. So I'm not looking into the prices of one item. I'm looking into a basket of goods and services. So I use price level, which is the index. Okay, so there are actually 2 types of inflation, or what we call as 2 causes of inflation. But basically, generally, and a basic idea is that inflation happens because of too much of money supply in the economy itself. Okay, so therefore, inflation happens mainly because of high money supply. Okay, mainly because high money supply being circulated in the economy. Why? Because when money supply is very high, then chances are people will spend a lot. Okay, so therefore, inflation mainly because of high money supply, caused by high money supply. Now, there are 2 types of inflation. You will learn all these details when it comes to the chapters on inflation, yeah. But so take this as a preview. So actually, it's not so good if she incorporate these questions into tutorial 4. But it's okay. Let's take it as a preview that. Okay, so first of all, one thing that I would like to highlight to you is that one recap here. Okay, so when we talk about okay, I put it here. One recap here. Okay, when let's say aggregate demand is way larger than aggregate supply, what is this situation called? We call it as a shortages. Okay, when aggregate demand is way larger than aggregate supply, it's called shortages. So what happened then? The price level will increase. Okay, so we call it as shortages. So therefore, the price level will increase. Okay, let me just adjust this bit. Okay, so therefore, price level will increase. Now, vice versa, if let's say aggregate supply is way larger than aggregate demand, what is this situation called? It's called surplus, and therefore price level will decrease. Okay, but when I say inflation, usually which category it belongs to? It belongs to the first one because price level must increase. So usually it's caused by shortages, either too much of aggregate demand or too less of aggregate supply. Okay, can So now I show you what are the two types of inflation. Okay, the first one is caused by high aggregate demand. Okay, so the first one is caused by high aggregate demand. Okay, as compared to very limited aggregate supply. So that means that there are too much of total demand in the economy that's caused by consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. Yeah. So therefore, the first one here is caused by high aggregate demand. Okay, larger than the aggregate supply. Too much of the total demand in the economy chasing too little of the goods and services. Okay, so therefore, high aggregate demand here, when I say aggregate demand here, we are referring to CIG and NX. Okay, so when high aggregate demand, that means your if you look into the graph, of course, here you don't have to draw any graph, just showing you. Okay, so this is the origin. This is the price level. This is the quantity of real GDP. Okay, and this is aggregate demand curve. Okay, and this SAS. And this is your LAS. Okay, so what happened is when I say higher aggregate demand means what? Means aggregate demand will shift rightwards. So initially I start from here. Okay, at this P0, at this YF, full employment. Okay, and then aggregate demand shift rightwards. Okay, so aggregate demand shift rightwards. Okay, so therefore from initial this point A, okay, move to here, point B. So you can see aggregate demand is here, but aggregate supply is here, right? This is red color point is aggregate demand, and then this green color over here is aggregate supply. Okay, so therefore there's a shortages which push up the prices to here, point C. So therefore now you can see prices going up. Okay, and now you are at this quantity amount of real GDP. Okay, so this one we call as demand pull inflation. Okay, demand pull inflation, which is the first type. Okay, on the other hand, we have another type of inflation that's caused by high cost of production or high input prices. So when cost becomes higher, which graph it affects? Supply curve. Yeah. So high cost of production that cause the SAS curve to shift leftwards. Just now, this one is caused by higher aggregate demand. Aggregate demand shift rightwards. So bear in mind, here is caused by aggregate demand. Here is caused by aggregate supply. Just now, that one is aggregate demand shift rightwards. This one is SAS shift leftwards. So again, I can show on a diagram Okay, this is my origin. This is my price level. This is my real GDP, my outputs. Okay, and then as usual, we have aggregate demand curve. We have SAS curve, and we have the full employment here, which my LIS. So initially it is at this point, this price and this amount. Okay, so assuming this is point A. Okay, so now what happened is supply curve will shift leftwards. Why? Because cost becomes higher. Yeah, so supply curve shift leftwards like this. Okay, S1. Okay, so therefore now you have moved to point B here. So supply is here. This is your aggregate supply. The red color one is aggregate supply, and the green color is aggregate demand. So what you can see over here, still demand way larger than the supply, way larger than the short supply. So there's a shortage over here because this is supply. This is the green color is the this is the demand. Okay, so therefore it will push up the prices to here point C. Okay, so the prices go up and the output become less. Why? Because this is caused by higher costs. Okay, and we call this as a cost push inflation. You'll learn more about this in the upcoming classes, but for this question, I just want you to know that there are two types of inflation, which is demand pull and cost push. One caused by higher aggregate demand, another one caused by short run aggregate supply, SAS curve. But mainly because you can see that inflation happens is because too much of money supply being circulated in the economy. So you don't have to worry so much about the graph first because we are going to learn about this graph again when it comes to the chapters on inflation. Yeah. Okay, shall we move on? Anyone? Huh? Emily? Oh, her name is Emily. Sorry. Because I don't get to see because I'm using iPad, so that's why I don't get to see anyone in the waiting room. Okay, all good. We move on. Okay, if you need okay, let's just wait for more. Okay, so I have provided the answers in sentences. So basically it covers all the things I want to cover here in the mind map here. Okay, so let's have a look into the answers here. Okay, so first I define what is inflation. Okay, so the first sentence is a definition. Okay, and I mentioned that the main determinant that cause inflation is because of the money supply. Okay, which affects the aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve. Okay, so I mentioned that just now aggregate demand more than aggregate supply is a shortage, and then aggregate supply exceeds aggregate demand is a surplus. Okay, now the main point is here. Okay, so if there's a change in aggregate demand, okay, so if aggregate demand increases due to increase in consumption, government spending, investments, and net exports, then what happens is price can increase as business increase the price to meet the increased total demand. Yeah, so that's the answers for the first part, focusing on aggregate demand. Okay, on the other hand, we also have changes in aggregate supply. Okay, why? Because when the cost of production increases, okay, so this is the second point, due to the factors such as rising costs or increased wages, then business will raise the price to maintain the profit margins. Okay, so therefore we have two types of inflation here, which is important for policymakers so that they get to know what policies to use in order to mitigate the inflation. Yeah. Okay, any questions so far? All good, huh? Okay, let's move on to next question. Now, next question is probably the kind of question you'll come across in your final exam. So this is how she changed the question already, okay? So therefore, later you can see what you are being expected to write a question like this. Okay, question number 3, draw a basic aggregate demand and aggregate supply graph with LAS constant that shows the economy in long run equilibrium. So first of all, assume that there is large increase in demand for US exports. A lot of people wanted to buy US exports. So if I look into it from US perspective, what happened is large exports, and therefore it will result in large net exports in the domestic economy. In the domestic economy. Showing the result of short run equilibrium on your graph. In the short run equilibrium, okay, so we talk about short run first, is the unemployment rate. So I want to focus on unemployment rate, likely to be higher or lower than it was before the increase in exports. Briefly explain. So that's the first part of the question. Okay, so that's the first part of the question. Second part, explain how the economy adjusts back to the long run equilibrium. The long run. Okay, when the economy has adjusted back to the long run equilibrium, how have the values of each of the following changed relative to what they were before the increase in exports? So we are going to compare the new real GDP and the previous real GDP, the price level, and the unemployment rate. Okay, so since they do not give any assumption, we can assume that the country starts with full employment. Okay, the country starts with full employment. So two parts of the questions here. Okay, so we want to talk about unemployment rate, huh? Okay, so let's see the short run unemployment rate. So I'm going to draw the answers here, although the diagram is already provided here, but I will draw it again here as well. Okay, now there's one thing that students will ask. Okay, first of all, let me write it down first. Price level. Okay, and then this is my real GDP. Okay, and then this is my aggregate demand. Okay, and then this is my SAS curve. And then this is my full employment, LAS. Okay, and this is the full employment. So initially starting from this point A, this price level, okay, P0. Okay, now you see, sometimes students might ask, here is a full employment, ma. How come we can still say that there is unemployment one? You see, here point A. Point A is a situation where real GDP equals to potential GDP you're achieving at the full capacity of the economy. How come I can still say that there is unemployment one? What kind of unemployment is that? Now, because you haven't learned about the unemployment part yet, because I haven't covered that because of the Raya holidays, so let me explain to you. So for unemployment, right, although the country is operating at the full capacity, at the potential GDP, right, there are still some unemployments in the country. We call it as a natural rate of unemployment. That means that regardless of how well the country using the resources, there will still be some resources being unemployed. Okay, like for example, people who are in frictional and structural unemployment. So frictional means you are temporary in between jobs. You are temporary unemployed. For example, let's say you are doing a job, you are a freelancer. Okay, so your job, you have completed your job, okay, and your contract has terminated already, has finished already. So you are waiting for another contract. So therefore, during that period of time, you are being unemployed, ma. Yes, although now we are operating in the full capacity in the economy already, but still, because your contract stops already, so there will be some people who are unemployed in the period of time. So therefore, regardless, although the country is in full capacity, there will still be some people who are being unemployed. Okay, but this one will be called as natural unemployment. Okay, like for example, let's say you are an actor, okay, actor or actress. So what happened is, let's say maybe okay, you have finished filming the drama, okay, you have no contract at this moment, so you are temporarily unemployed at this moment here. Okay, so therefore that's also called frictional unemployment. Okay, so yeah, although you are in full employment point here, there is still unemployment actually, but that unemployment is not really a concern. Okay, because it's temporarily, it's only for short term. Okay, so now increase in the exports or increase in net exports. So what happened is the aggregate demand will increase. Because why? Because when I say increase in net exports, net export is one of the components of aggregate demand. Okay, we should shift the aggregate demand curve rightwards. Okay, so aggregate demand curve will shift rightwards. Okay, from point A, move to point B over here. So aggregate demand is the blue color point. and the aggregate supply is the red color point. Okay, so therefore what happened is, so now point B is here. Okay, don't have to draw this, no reason. Okay, so now I can straight away go up to new equilibrium, which is point C. Yeah, point C is my new equilibrium. Why? Because for shortages, it push up the new price, push up to a new equilibrium. So this is the new price level, and this is the new outputs. Okay, so now you can see that there is an inflationary gap here. Okay, so basically you can see that the country is actually overworked already. The economy is overworked. So if I were to look into the unemployment, of course it will be lower lor, because now everyone got job already ma. So therefore the first part over here is shift the aggregate demand. Okay, and what happened is the unemployment will be lower. Why? Because real GDP has increased. Okay, so you can see now my real GDP is at Y1 over here. Okay, then how it adjusts back to a long run? So there's inflationary gap. That means people already overworked. So what happened is they will start to ask for higher wages, okay, higher salary to maintain the same real value of earnings because price level has gone up. So therefore, when they ask for higher wages, labor costs increase, and therefore that affects your SAS curve. So in the long run, okay, in the long run over here, okay, it will affect the SAS curve when they ask for higher wages. So SAS curve will shift leftwards because your cost increase. Okay, so therefore it will shift leftwards back to the full employment. Okay, so SAS1. So from this point point C over here, okay, moving to point D, okay. Okay, so again, this is my aggregate supply curve. The blue color is my aggregate demand curve. So again, there's a shortage, okay, which push up the prices to here, okay, which is point E. So you can see end up at the higher price level and back to the initial employment level. Okay. So make sure you answer the questions. Okay. So make sure you answer the question. So this time I want to talk about price level. So what about the price level now? The price level becomes higher. Okay, price level become higher. What about the real GDP? Back to the same. Back to the same. And what about unemployment rate? Back to the same as well. Okay, so one thing you can see here that there's basically no change in the outputs and the employment level, but the price has gone up too. Yeah. Okay, can that's how I answer the question. So this is the question. That is the answer that you are expected to write. So actually not too long. Okay, and the 50s diagram. Any questions so far? Good. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next question then. Assume that there's an unexpected increase in price of oil. Increase in price of oil. Which graph that it will affect? Aggregate demand or aggregate supply? Yeah, very good. Because why is that price of inputs is the cost of production. Yeah. So therefore, SAS curve will be affected, which will shift leftwards because here the prices increase. Okay. Showing the result of the short run equilibrium. Again, short run. Explain how the economy adjusts back to the long run. Again, the same thing. So in the short run, we talk about unemployment rate first. Okay. Whether it will be higher or lower as compared to before. Briefly explain. So that's the first part of the question. Second part of the question, when the economy, okay, has adjusted back to the long run equilibrium, how have the values of the following changed? Again, we look into real GDP, price level, and unemployment rate. Okay, so again, I will draw the answers together here. Although it's already provided, but I will show you again. Okay, so you have your origin here, you have your price level here, you have your real GDP here. Okay, and again, you have your aggregate demand, and you have your SAS curve. Now, as I say today here, that I do not provide any assumption, so I can assume that it starts from full employment. Remember, you must always see whether there is any assumption being given or not. Okay, whether it starts with full employment or whether it starts with inflationary gap or deflationary gap. Okay. Okay, initially we start at this point. It's full employment at this price level. Okay, so now SAS will be affected, like what our classmate mentioned. So therefore, SAS curve will shift leftwards. Okay, SAS 1. Because why? Because price increase of price of oil, you can say increase in the price of oil, increase the cost of transportation, for example. Okay, so basically it increase your costs. Okay, therefore result SAS curve to shift leftwards. Okay, so therefore now from initially the point A over here, moving to point B. Okay, so point B here is my new aggregate supply. Okay, but point A here is my aggregate demand. So what situation is this? Again, still demand more than supply, right? So it's a shortages, which push up the prices. Okay, so which push up the prices to point C over here. Okay, so therefore, now my price becomes higher to P1 and my output is at here, Y1. So what happened here is you can see there is a recessionary gap. That means there are people being unemployed here. Since now less outputs being produced, then yeah, the unemployment actually becoming higher in the short run. Okay, so therefore, if you look into my answers over here in the short run, okay, the unemployment, because it results in higher price level and lower real GDP. So here the unemployment rate has increased. Okay, why? Because it produced below the potential GDP. Okay, so that's for short run, as you can see here for short run. Okay, what about long run then? Now, actually, I feel that the answer is actually not very good, but it's okay. Let's follow her answers first. Then I will tell you what my thoughts is. But follow her answers. Okay, so what happened is in the long run, okay, what happened is that because at point C, you can see that people actually being unemployed. Okay, being unemployed, no job, so they are desperate for jobs, right? So what happened is that they were actually okay to take up whatever wages being offered to them because they're desperate, right? So therefore, they might suppress their wages. Okay, they might suppress down their wages for the sake of getting a job. So when they suppress down the wages means what? Means labor costs become lower already, right? So therefore, when costs become lower, so in the long run, okay, because these people are desperate for jobs, so they might reduce their wages. When wages reduce, it reduces the labor costs. So cost of production reduced. What happened to SAS curve? Shift rightwards. Yeah? Okay, very good. So that means from point C, I move back lah. SAS1 to SAS again. No? So again, point C move to point D over here. So this is my new supply curve already. Okay, so blue color is my aggregate supply curve. Red color is my aggregate demand curve. So here, what's the situation? AD here, aggregate supply here. Supply is more than demand. It's a surplus, right? It's a surplus. So therefore, push down price back to point A. So this is my point E over here. So what I can see here, price go back to P0 and it goes back to the full employment. So basically, here you can see that real GDP, price level, and unemployment rate are back to the original value. But this is very rare because usually when price goes up, it will not go back to the lower one. So what happened is, right, in the previous scenario, in the short run, when I said that it's already recessionary gap, so what happened is usually government will come in the form of government intervention. They might give like unemployment benefits or to help the people who are being unemployed. So when government intervention is being involved, right, it actually shifts the aggregate demand curve rightwards. So in the long run, it could actually result in the rightward shift of the aggregate demand actually. Because when there is a recessionary gap, when there are people being unemployed, government will come in. So therefore, aggregate demand curve will shift rightwards, and then causing it to go up. That means the price level will go up. Yes, it back to full employment, but the price level will go up one. Okay, so that is another possibility, which I feel that that one is more relevant, or that one is more realistic. Okay, but follow her answers, huh? Okay, so these are the contents for tutorial 4, and I want to move on to tutorial 3, tutorial 2. So question 3 and 4 are the questions that usually you come across that are related to aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Yeah. And of course, question 1 and 2 are important as well, but those are just testing you a bit of the concept of policies as well as inflation only. Hey, do you feel cold? Okay, okay. Okay, yeah. Okay. Feel quite cold. You want to slow? I thought of like switching off for a while first. Can right, can right. Yeah, switch off for a while. For one. That's true. It's fun. That one is okay. You're not cold, ma, right? Okay, right? You're cold. Then you should want to on. Okay, okay. Can okay, okay. Never mind. Later I on back this, you off that lor. Okay. That means you are cold also lah. Okay, let's have a look into tutorial 2. Yep, so the contents that you haven't covered yet. Okay. Oh nah. Okay. Yep. So first one, we look into GDP and the three approach of measuring GDP. So what is GDP first of all? So first of all, we need to know the definition. When we talk about GDP, it refers to the market value. Market value means I use the price times the quantity of all final goods and services, final products produced in the country, within the country, because we talk about domestic, in a given time period. That means in the year. Okay, so it is used to assess the country's performance, okay, and the standard of living, and to compare with other countries over time. Okay, so there are three ways for you to measure GDP. The first one is expenditure method. So we talk about expenditure method means that I look into the total spending in the economy. Total spending means what? Means my aggregate demand. Aggregate demand means what? Consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. Okay, that's called expenditure methods. Second method is called income methods, income approach. That means I look into the net domestic income as factor cost. That means like the income that's being earned by our factors of production in the country. So it's based on the factor incomes. Like for example, if you are employee, you earn wages. If you are your business, if your business, when we look into business, we look into corporate profits. Or if you are entrepreneur, we look into the proprietor's income or the interest that you earn, or rental that you earn, or we calculate all the income that you earn from factors of production, but transfer payment is not being included. What is transfer payment? Transfer payment means like the government financial assistance, like unemployment benefits, state benefits, all these are not being included. Okay, although it's still your money, it's still the money that you can spend, but it's not being included over here. It's not being included in income approach. So we need to deduct it out. Okay, but here you can see that it's the income for the factors of production. Wages is for the labor, profits or proprietors income is for entrepreneurs, interest is for your capital or your investments, okay, and rental is for your land. Okay, so it's all related to your factors of production. We call it as factor income that's being earned by the factor of productions. Okay, the next one is output approach. Output approach means that I look into the value of the final goods and services, or by looking into the value added of the output itself to avoid double counting. What do we mean by here? Example, let's say the apple here, okay, costs $2. Okay, now an apple juice, okay, an apple juice costs $5. Okay, so one apple costs $2 and one apple juice costs $5. If I go and record these two, will they be double counting over here? It will. Why? Because these $5 over here have already included the cost of the apple. This $2 is already being included over here. So it's either, okay, the economists take into account of this one only, the final goods and services, or we look into the value added part. That means we use 5 minus 2. That means the value added part is 3. So we just record 2 and 3 here. Okay, because we have to deduct it out. We have to deduct the cost of apple. So we can just take into account the value added part. The value added from converting the apple to apple juice. Okay, which is $3. So therefore, either we take into the final goods and services, or we take into account the value added parts. 2 plus 3 equals 5. Yeah, that's called output approach. Okay, but again, there will always be some sort of statistical discrepancies. That means some of the transactions may go unrecorded. You know, like for example, illegal activities might go unrecorded. You know, or like charity not being recorded, or maybe like the work that's being done by housewife are not being recorded as well. So that leads us to the next point over here, which is called limitations of the real GDP, or the transactions that are being omitted by the GDP itself. First one, household production are being ignored. You know, like because like for example, your parents provide some meals, okay, or some services, okay, but all these are not being recorded because they are not selling all these services, right? So we say that it ignore the value of non-marketed services. Okay. Second, omission of undeclared economic activity. Maybe you do some side business jobs, but you did not report that you did not declare the taxes. Okay, you run you do some illegal activities, for example. Okay, so all these are like what we call as black market, which is go unrecorded. Omission of health and life expectancy. GDP doesn't tell you how well the country peoples are living. You know, with GDP does not tell you on average how long people can live, or on average how many years they can live in the country. So GDP omits that. Okay, and GDP also omits quality of life, or your standard of living, your well-being. Okay, because GDP is looking into the total value of the outputs only. Yeah, GDP also omits the environmental quality. It doesn't look into pollution. Okay, and GDP also doesn't look into equity and equality. That means GDP does not tell you whether the country got freedom or not, or whether the country is very fair or not. And lastly, GDP also omits inequality. So these are things that GDP do not mention. Okay, so this part is important. So here it shows that GDP is not a very best measurement. It only shows us the total domestic outputs being produced by the country. Okay, there are some limitations here. This is important. It comes out so often, this one. So make sure you know how to explain it. So the one in the bracket can be your explanations. Okay, so let's have a look into tutorial questions then. Okay, so question 1 here, you are being given with all these data. You have consumption, investment, government spending, okay, and then your exports and imports. Okay. So what happened is, first one, determine the value of the GDP. So you see, you have CIG and X, right? So which method you are referring to? You are referring to expenditure methods, yeah? Because you look into total spending in the economy. So therefore, here you just add up all together, Okay, so first of all, bear in mind, you have exports and imports here, so you need to minus each other. You need to use exports minus imports to get your net exports. Yeah, so try and do. Anyone has calculator or not? This one calculator or not? It's okay then. So add that up. So you have 52930. Okay, that's your, so here you have to do your EIG and X. Okay, so first amount plus next amount. So you just add up all together. Yep. So at the end you will get this amount. Okay. So make sure you add up all together. This one plus this one plus this one plus this one, and then plus this net export as well. So this is okay. So all these values add up together, then you will get the final answers. Why you add up all? Because this is consumption, government spending, investment. So private gross fixed capital expenditure is also investment. Okay, and your final net exports. Okay, so this is what I call as the expenditure methods. Okay, so next question, explain 3 examples of transactions that will not be included in the GDP. So you can throw in any answers that we just learned: underground activities, black market, second-hand goods, non-market transactions, or intermediate goods. Okay, because we only record final values of the value of the final goods and services. So intermediate not being recorded. So next question, what's the difference between final goods and intermediate goods? Okay, are intermediate goods being included in GDP? So first of all, final goods means is for final use. Okay, okay, and what happened is for intermediate goods means is subject to further processing. Okay, it's not the final goods yet. Okay, subject for further processing or manufacturing or result. Yeah. Okay, so therefore, GDP only looks into the final goods, yeah, but it does not look into the intermediate goods. Okay, what I want you to focus on is question number 2, yeah, which is more important, the calculation parts. Okay, so first of all, we have 2 types of, so when we talk about GDP, we can talk about it as nominal GDP and real GDP. Nominal GDP is basically means that it is based on the current market value. Okay, so that means nominal GDP is based on current market value. That means when I compute the nominal GDP later on, it is based on the prices on that time itself, based on the value of the product itself on that time. Okay. And then when we talk about real GDP, that means that I want to adjust for inflation. So real GDP means that it's a GDP that has been adjusted for inflation. That means that I want it to give me a better info. I want to remove the inflation factor over here. Because you see, when I talk about GDP, I look into the values, right? When I talk about values means what? price times quantity. When I say values goes up, when I say the value of the outputs go up, that means that it could be because of price go up or quantity goes up, right? Correct. When I say values goes up, it could be because of price go up or quantity goes up. But what I want is the quantity that goes up. I do not want the price goes up. But if the price goes up, it will still push up my value as well. So this is why I want to remove the inflation factor. Because if there is inflation, this thing will go up, that push up the value. I do not want this. I want to remove this. So therefore, I want to make these prices constant. Okay, so I just want to see how is that I want to see whether the GDP grows or not. Okay, mainly because of the quantity itself. Okay, so therefore I cannot use the current prices. I must use the prices in the base year. That means the year without inflation and deflation. So therefore, I cannot use the current prices anymore. Later on, when I want to calculate real GDP, I must follow the prices in the base year. Okay, because I want to make my prices constant. So that later on, by using real GDP, then only I can see whether the increase in the values of GDP is caused by the increase in the quantity or not. Okay, so this is something that we're going to look into later on when we look into real GDP. Okay, now actually the better question is actually at the bottom one, this one, the mini homework. But let's go through this one, the simplest one first. Okay, so first of all, in 2001, you have pizza, Coca-Cola, and salad, and there's the quantity. So in 2001, okay, so let's say price in 2001, $10 for pizza. So 10 quantities being produced. What is the expenditure? So here you also spend 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. Okay. And then after that, here you just time each other. Okay, and then add up together. What's the amount? 240. So that's the nominal GDP. Now, if I were to calculate real GDP, I cannot use this price anymore. I cannot use the prices in 2001 anymore. Assuming 2000 is the year of base year, that means neither inflation nor deflation, then I follow the prices in 2000. So, for example, 10 pieces of pizza times this amount. Why? Because that's the price in the base year. 90, 40, 100. What's the amount? 230. Let me see if it's correct. Yeah. Okay. So we complete the table above already. Yeah. So what is the value of nominal GDP in 2001? This one, no? 240. What is the value of real GDP in 2001? 230. So you see, that's why once we remove the price factor, you can see that actually there's some inflation going on over here. So therefore, the GDP, the value of GDP increases is actually caused by the price itself. Yeah, so that means there is inflation playing a role over here. So we want to see how much is inflation. So we can use the next one, the next question, the GDP deflator, to see the price index. Okay, so therefore what we can do over here is we need to use the formula of GDP deflator. Okay, so how do we calculate that? So that's the formula I've provided, GDP deflator price index. We want to calculate the price index. Okay, so first of all, we need the current expenditure. So current expenditure means nominal GDP lor. Nominal GDP as a proportion of real expenditure, real GDP times 100. What do you get? $104.35. Correct? Let me know if it's wrong. Please calculate it. Okay, so that's the price index in 2001. That's current price index. So if I ask you to calculate the inflation rate, how to calculate? So remember, this is index. Okay, so therefore, if I want to calculate inflation rate, I can use the formula here. Basically means I use the new index 104.35 minus 100, which is the base index, divided by 100 times 100. So you get the answers, 4.35%, right? Yeah. So So basically here, when I say 100 means it's a base year, neither the inflation nor deflation. So this is called as base year. Hey, but check 104.35 is correct, right? Yeah. So that means the inflation, the prices increased by 4.35%. Okay, all good. Now, for this one mini homework, I just want to go through question A and B with you, and then later on C and D you can try at home. This one I want you really try at home, because it really came out in your finals. In finals or midterm, I can't remember. So spend time on this. Okay, try and do question A first. See if you can get the values. Okay, so you see you have 3 years here: 2010, 2011, and 2012. Okay, so first of all, 2010 is a base year. So usually we assume 2010 is a base year, is a year without inflation and deflation. So the price is the best. Okay, so we calculate first. So 6, then this is 5. Okay, this is 10. So I can calculate total up is 21. Okay, and then here, okay, 2011. So you see, we have GDP 2011 and GDP 2010 prices. So that means this one, I want to calculate for my real GDP. So what about this one? Nominal GDP. Okay. So we calculate again. No? So this one, nominal one based on current prices. Okay, 12, 15. So this should be 29.50. Okay, and real GDP, that means for real GDP, I must calculate based on the initial price. Yeah. 5, 6, 15. Yeah. So I use the output times the original price. 26. Okay. Then same thing do for 2012. Okay, let me know if you have any problems. So again, this one is your NGDP, nominal GDP. This one is your real GDP. Okay, try and calculate that. Then real GDP, same thing as well. We use the outputs here times the on original price. 5, 6, 15, 26. It seems like real GDP remain the same only. See, real GDP for this one and this one is the same. That means inflation is kicking in here. Okay, so make sure you can get the values. Okay, then after that, question B, calculate economic growth rate for GDP in current prices and in constant prices. Current prices means NGDP, nominal GDP, okay? Constant prices means real GDP. Okay, so how do you see the growth? We use the same formula, use the new one minus the old one divided by the old one. Okay, so for example, for 2011, this one. Okay, so we use the new nominal GDP, which is 9.50 minus 21 divided by 21 times 100. That's for the growth of NGDP. Okay, and on the other hand, to see the growth of real GDP, we use 26 minus 21 divided by 21 times 100. That's the growth rate of the real GDP. See if you can get the same values or not. See if you can get the same answers here. Let me know if you can't. Like, you got any question or not? But no one check the answers or not, and no one bring calculators. Oh, you got we use financial calculator to do this. Lucky I 因为我想我通过 bracket 要换这个就有办法calculator。Okay, the answer is correct. Hey, your friend not coming today. Green color, but right is green color. This one green. I really think the in the the pandemic really yeah okay next lecturer the formula yeah the for the basic one very basic. Okay, so do the same for question C, and then question D is using the GDP deflator. So I believe you all know how to do. Follow the formula. GDP deflator, you can just follow by the formula up here. Okay. Okay. Hey, you also planning to go do exchange? Just now you're talking about exchange here, so exchange. So popular now. Okay, next part on tutorial 2, which is called unemployment. Okay, so first of all, when we talk about unemployment, first thing you need to know is the definition of unemployment. So when I talk about unemployment, how do we define it? We are referring to people who are unemployed, okay, but they are able and willing to work. It's just that they are unable to find a job. So here, unemployed, I cannot say, oh, today I simply do not want to work. That means I'm considered as unemployment. That's wrong. So when we talk about unemployment, we saying that we are referring to people who are able and willing to work. It's just that they cannot find a job. So that means if there's a job being offered to them, they will be able to take up. So that's how we define unemployment. Today, because maybe your parents are too rich and therefore you want to be unemployed, that's not considered as unemployment, yeah? Okay, so unemployment here, we have some definitions in which you must follow. This is how the ILO define as well. So why do we mention ILO here? Because next time when you want to do research, when you go to the World Bank data, there are different metrics. There are different metrics or different measurements of unemployment. You may want to choose the ILO one because ILO define unemployment based on these characteristics. People who are able and willing to work, it's just that they are unable to find a job. Okay, so there are 3 types of unemployment over here. So let me go through that with you quickly. Okay, so frictional unemployment means you are temporarily unemployed or you are in between jobs. Okay, so 3 examples here. First one, search unemployment. So let's say you leave your first job and you're looking for the second job. So in between you're looking for jobs, that is called frictional unemployment. You are searching for a job. Or let's say you're a graduate. Once you graduated, then you are looking for a job. So when you're looking for the job itself, it's called search unemployment. Seasonal unemployment means that, for example, you are fruit pickers during winter. There's during winter you cannot go and harvest the fruit, so therefore during winter you are unemployed. So that's why I call it seasonal unemployment. We think about like tourism as well. Maybe in some seasons, there'll be a lot of demand, and in some seasons there might be less. So we call it seasonal unemployment. The last one here, sorry, there's spelling error. It's called casual unemployment. Casual unemployment is like, for example, let's say you are a freelancer. Once your contract terminates already, you are temporary unemployed. You are looking for the new job, new task. Okay, same thing like, for example, actor. Okay, once they finish a contract, then they are waiting for another production by another producer. So therefore, that's what we call as casual unemployment. Okay, you're temporary unemployed in search of jobs. Okay, next one is called structural unemployment. Structural unemployment means that it arises from the changes in the pattern of demand or supply, okay, of the skills and occupations. So this links to your skills. Basically, for structural unemployment, right, it happens due to occupational immobility and geographical immobility. Okay, what do you mean by geographical and occupational immobility? Yeah, so very quick mind map over here. So when we talk about mobility, okay, when we talk about labor mobility, okay, so when we talk about mobility, okay, we can look into it from two perspectives. Okay, first one is what we call as occupational mobility. Okay, occupational mobility means how easy it is for you to switch between different tasks. Okay, the ease of switching to different occupation or tasks. Okay. Another one is called geographical mobility. When we talk about geographical mobility means the ease of moving to different locations. Okay, so usually labor, when we talk about workers, maybe they might be occupational immobile and geographical immobile. Okay, so they might be immobile. Why? For example, you are an engineer and today I would like to ask you to become an accountant. Can you do that? You cannot, right? So that's what we call as occupational immobility. It's not easy for you to switch between different occupations or tasks. Yes. Okay, so workers may be occupational immobile. Okay, at the same time, they might be geographical immobile as well. Like for example, your company have your company has moved to has shifted to another place, and because of family commitment, you are not able to travel to the place. Okay, so that's why I call as geographical immobile. Okay, so occupational immobility and geographical immobility are the main reasons that result in structural unemployment. Okay, so let me go through the example with you. Just wait for a while. Yes, which word is not clear? Different occupations or different locations. Yeah. 字太美了，没办法。 The productive. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's look into examples. Technological unemployment. For example, cashier. So cashier can be replaced by technologies, right? Like for example, last time when you go for movies, you go and buy your tickets at the counter, over the counter, but now you don't have to. You buy over the kiosk. Okay, so therefore cashiers have been replaced by technologies. So those people who previously worked as a cashier now how? Become unemployed already, no? If they don't have any other skills other than collecting money in the cashier, then chances are they will be unemployed. So you see, this happens from occupational immobility, right? Unless the person is mobile, then different. Yeah, but usually if the person is very occupational immobile and geographical immobile, then chances are they will get into this category, which is called structural unemployed. Okay, now second one and the third one, regional and international unemployment. For example, let's say you have been working for a factory in that area, and now your factory has moved to, for example, Singapore. Okay, yes, you might be able to travel to Singapore for work, but the thing is maybe because of family commitment, you have to remain in KL area, Selangor. So therefore, that's one that the geographical immobility basically cause you to be unemployed. Okay, or like for example, let's say now factory is looking for a place that has a very low labor cost, like for example China. Okay, so therefore all these manufacturing companies have moved to China, have shifted to China. So therefore, previously you used to work in this region, but now no more already because all the companies have shifted to other country. So therefore we call as regional or international unemployment. Again, this happens because of geographical immobility. You can't just move just like your company itself because of you might have your family commitment. Yeah. And the next one is cyclical or demand deficient. That means basically this is caused by business cycle. It's caused by economy not doing good. Okay, so this unemployment is actually because of the downturn in the economy, which is a fall in aggregate demand. So the keywords, this one, cyclical unemployment is caused by a fall in aggregate demand. That means the economy is not doing good. Okay, some important formulas over here. When we talk about labor force, we look into the combination of people who are employed and unemployed. And we look into labor force participation rate. Okay, we look into labor force as a proportion of working age population. Because you may be in working age population, but you haven't joined the labor force yet. You all are in working age population. But have you all joined labor force? No ma. Okay, so therefore you are in working age population, but you're not in the labor force yet. So you're not active in labor force. Okay, unemployment rate, we look into unemployed people divided by the labor force times 100. Okay, bear in mind, labor force equals to employed plus unemployed. Okay, let's have a look into questions here. Tutorial questions. Continue. Okay, so you are being given the data, and let's have a look into question one. What is the participation rate for 2003 and 2004? Has the participation rate increased? So how do we calculate participation rate? We use labor force divided by working age population. Okay, so labor force divided by working age population times 100. Okay, so for example, here the first one is 110 divided by 168. Okay, times 100, you get these answers. Same, do the same for 2004 as well. You get this number. So therefore, you can see how much is the increment. So you can calculate the change here. 60, no need to do this. So you just minus, and then you can see the increment already. The increment is by how much? By 1.77%. Okay. The next question. Okay, how to calculate unemployment rate? So very simple. We use unemployment divided by labor force times 100. Okay, so unemployment divided by labor force Okay, 7 divided by 110 times 100, you get this amount. Same thing, 9 divided by 115 times 100 equal this amount. Okay, so there's also an increment in unemployment. So basically using formulas only, yeah. Then rush, man. Rushing for 2 tutorials in one class. Okay, good. Okay, now extra questions here. Why does unemployment still exist even when the countries are experiencing strong growth? This is what I say lah. Natural rate of unemployment, NIRU, because NIRU is what we call as natural rate of unemployment, which consists of frictional and structural unemployment. So based on opinion, how can you solve or reduce NIRU over time? That means you make people more mobile. For example, increase in the mobility of labor, increase in education and training, a reduction in trade union restriction practices. That means that you want to make it more competitive in labor market. Okay, a reduction in unemployment benefits to get people to go to work, and a cut in income tax to encourage people to go to work. So therefore, NIRU will reduce. These two questions quite important. Pay some attention to these two questions. Okay. Question 4. Explain why every economy experiences unemployment, draw the business cycle, and show whether which one is recession gap and which one is inflationary gap. So you draw the business cycle, as you can see on my y-axis real GDP, on my x-axis time, okay, and there's a trend line, okay, and you can see there are few components here: expansion, peak, recession, and truth, okay, trough. Okay, so here what happened is when we look into inflationary gap, okay, you see, for example, this line is your potential GDP. Okay, there's a potential GDP, and the curve one up and down is your actual GDP. Yeah. So therefore, when you're producing at the peak, which is way larger than your potential GDP. So when you're at a peak means what? Means that actual GDP is way larger than potential GDP. That's called inflationary gap. Okay. Vice versa, if let's say you are at the bottom here, and then this is a potential GDP, that means you are producing way below than the potential GDP, we call it as deflationary gap or recessionary gap. That means actual output is lower than potential outputs. So just see this straight line, trend line here as potential GDP. Okay, and then up and down is actual GDP. Okay, next question. Provide a brief explanation for 2 reasons why certain economies contend that GDP does not provide accurate measure. So again, this is the question that we have discussed, the things that have been omitted by GDP. Yeah. So this one you can just use back the same answers that we covered just now in the beginning of the class. Yeah. Okay, now question 6. This one just want to go through quickly with you because it's just formula. The thing is this, for this one it came out as a question in your final exam last year, and then she didn't teach this at all. So and also the answers are a bit weird lah. So actually, if you do realize, I feel that some answers I don't know why she gave the formulas, but let's just follow her formulas then. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, you can see you are being given with all this info. So which kind of method of GDP that you're going to use? You have a lot of income of factors of production, right? So you're going to use income approach. Okay, income approach. So first, when we want to calculate GDP, okay, so which approach we have to go? Well, we have to use income approach already. Okay, so how do we calculate income approach? So let's straight away go to the answers, because we're running out of time. Okay, so we talk about GDP, we look into income approach. That means we look into the income that's being earned by the factors of production, like wages and salary, income from rent, dividend and interest and profits. So you find all these figures and add it up. So to calculate the GDP of this question, we use income approach. That means we look into the income that's being earned by the factors of production. Now, when I want to look into GNP, gross national product, so here I have to take into account of the income that's being earned abroad as well. That means that regardless of where you are, as long as you belong to Malaysian citizens, whatever income that you earn abroad, I want to take into account. So I use GDP plus net factor income abroad. Again, I just get all the values from the top, from this top over here. Okay, remember, so just now GDP is for domestic only, and GMP is I take into account of the income that you earn abroad. Okay, then after that, if I were to calculate national income, I use GNP minus depreciation and indirect tax. Okay, so these three are good. Now the question D and E a bit weird, but we just follow her formula. The next one, personal income. Now remember this personal income, because I don't think she's referring to the personal income on an individual basis. She's referring to basically from a macro perspective, the personal income that's being total up the personal income of the people in the country itself. Okay, so therefore, we use net income plus transfer payment. Transfer payment is the unemployment benefits or state benefits from the government. Okay, minus corporate profit tax. Okay, minus EPF that you pay for your retirement purposes, minus income earned but not received yet. Okay, minus your social security contributions like SOCSO in Malaysia, minus any undistributed corporate profits, and plus back any income that you receive although you have not earned yet. So that will give you personal income. Just follow her formula. I know this very weird. I know this is a bit weird. So I heard that some tutors are also talking about this as well. Question D and E are a bit weird. I will just follow her formula then. Yeah. Okay, and when we talk about personal disposable income, that means we minus the income tax. Okay, so we just follow the personal, we just use the personal income minus the personal income tax. Then you get the disposable income. But again, I believe question D and E, she's referring to the macro perspective. See everyone from, see the population as a whole, not on individual basis. So question D and E, the formula is actually a bit weird. Yeah. So we just follow Jela. What can we do? Yeah. Okay, so that's all for today's contents. Let me stop recording.